Welcome to Adam's Athenaeum. Let's take a look together through the news and records of our times as we try to shed light upon the unvarnished truth. Thanks for coming back to listen to this episode where we're going to remind ourselves of just what has happened over the last few years. Let's start. Actually, let us not forget what has really happened over these last 21 months of Biden's regime. The average cost of gas was under or around $2 a gallon under Trump, and now it's near or over $4 a gallon with Biden. America used to be a net exporter of oil under Trump. Now our wobbly leader has to beg Saudi Arabia to drop their oil prices. And instead of agreeing to Biden's requests, they've now decided to charge us more than they originally had offered. CRT and the transgender agenda in classrooms were banned in some areas under Trump. But now the Biden regime and other Democratic supporters actively work to promote the LGBTQ agenda and suggest to children that sex changes and polyamory are acceptable at their age. They also host drag shows and invite children in some cases, and the children in some cases tip the drag queens during their performances. Crime has skyrocketed across the country. Criminals are raping, pillaging, looting, and rioting in broad daylight with no consequences to be had. District and prosecuting attorneys refuse to do their job and pursue charges on active criminals while releasing inmates from prisons. Let us not forget that Hunter Biden's laptop story is still being covered up and ignored by most in the mainstream media, along with Ashley Biden's alleged diary contents. The laptop details illicit, felonious acts by the president's son, allegedly, while the diary suggests things about Joe Biden that have been covered up by his regime, allegedly. We should also remember that polls taken early after the 2020 election asked voters, had you known about the Hunter Biden laptop story before the election, would you have still voted for Biden? Of the people polled, 7% said they would not have voted for Joe Biden, and if they had known about this before the election. If we remember correctly, Joe only won by like 6%. So had this not been suppressed and ignored by the mainstream and corporate media, perhaps the election would have come out differently. Let's also remember, Biden abandoned hundreds of millions of dollars worth of military equipment, gear, weapons, night vision, body armor during his botched withdrawal in Afghanistan. Yet he wants to institute law in America that penalizes Americans for not having guns locked up in their own home, according to Joe Biden's standards. Joe Biden has fallen up steps multiple times in the same incident. Fallen off of a stopped bicycle, shook hands with the air, talked to nobody, walked the wrong way, or had to be escorted on or off a stage by his wife or Secret Service. He can't even read his cue cards or teleprompters properly and says words like true banana shubita pressure. With something like 14 different job-related and supply chain crises, Biden continues to send billions of dollars in aid to Ukraine, a country who is not a formal ally of the US and who is also not formally at war with Russia. Let us not forget that Floridian sheriffs and other law enforcement agencies across the country, seemingly weekly, if not daily, are making huge sex offender busts. They are prosecuting criminals for all sorts of sex crimes with minors and and several of these employees work for child-related companies such as Disney, Disney World, or Disneyland. Biden allows illegal immigration and encouraged, supported, and funded moving migrants across the country in the dead of night by U.S. planes and the U.S. Air Force. He then cried when around 100 migrants were sent to Martha's Vineyard, a very upscale community, which certainly should have been able to provide for these migrants, as Martha's Vineyard claims to be a sanctuary state. They had him deported. The Biden regime and the FBI went after parents who dared to speak up and voice their opinions at school board meetings about what was being taught in the classroom. This is a very small and unexhaustive list of things that we have dealt with in the mere, what's it been, 18 months, 20, 21 months since Joe Biden became president? It took hundreds of years to make this country, as broken as it started, as good as it became. There's still a lot of work to do. And in less than 2 years, one man and his regime have desecrated and destroyed and defiled this country, its values and its morals and its people. With the voting season coming up in less than a month and the presidential election coming up in about 2 years, I'm going to be making more episodes like this, reminding you as you go to the voting box of why you should vote against the Democrats. I don't care who else you vote for. I don't care which way you go. There needs to be a change. Obviously, the Democrats have not done anything good for this country that I can name. They've tried, and they've made bills and signed things into law that have great names, but have no good effect for America or its people. The Inflation Reduction Act, I mean, it sounds great. We're going to reduce the inflation, right? What did it do? It increased some spending. And yet Joe Biden says we're going to save $250 billion. That's great. We're $31 trillion in debt. I will be reminding you of every situation I can find where the Democrats have failed you, where they failed the Constitution, the American people, where they have failed, to uphold their duty to their office and to this country. I will be there to show you every time that I can find of the Democrats, their supporters, and this presidency flouting the law, flouting the same, what am I trying to say? The same injustices they would put on you, they flout about because they don't have to care about it. I will be reminding you weekly, if not every other week, of the things that you need to remember when you go into that voting box, that you should not vote straight ticket, Democrat or Republican or independent. You need to be informed and educated and find out what people are really up to. Everywhere from your district attorney to your local school boards, all the way up to the presidency. Be informed. Don't fall into laziness. Don't fall into excuses of I don't have enough time and my life is too busy. You live in this country. You need to make your impact. You need to make the impact of your unique thinking heard through your voting voice. And I hope to see you all there at the voting booth. We need to make our voices heard. And that's where I'll leave this episode. Short, sweet, and to the point. As you can see, other side. As you can see up here, top corner of my screen, I'm kind of expanding on social media a little bit, just trying to see what social media site is going to be the best for content creators. YouTube doesn't really help the little guy. You have to be very careful of what you say compared to some of these other websites, such as Locals, Rumble. I mean, I'm on Twitter, but that's only because I post my own content there. And sometimes, as strange as it sounds, you'll find breaking news, headlines, or interesting stories to read about on there. So anyway, if you would like to continue keeping up on the news, reminding yourself of why you need to go vote, please subscribe to my channel. That way you can be notified every time I go live. And if you've got anything to disagree with me, please put it down in the comments section. I look forward to seeing you there. And if you think this message needs to be heard by any of your friends or family, please feel free to share it with everyone. I'll be uploading again soon, and I look forward to seeing you there.